UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has said that the United Nations is holding serious negotiations with China for unrestricted access to Xinjiang region. Guterres says that China must give complete access to the UN Human Rights Commissioner. A UN report had earlier stated that close to 1 million Uyghur Muslims are being held in detention camps in the region by Chinese authorities.
I've always reaffirmed the absolute need of human rights to be respected and the different communities that exist in China to see not only their identity respected, but for them to feel that they are part of the nation of a whole without discrimination. And we have asked for the Human Rights High Commissioner to be able to have a visit in China without any limitations in the access. This is being negotiated at the present moment between the Office of the High Commissioner and the Chinese authorities, and I hope that they will reach an agreement soon and that the Human Rights High Commissioner will be able to visit China without restrictions or limitations.
Now, the UN's High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, had said last month that reports of arbitrary detention, ill treatment, sexual violence and forced labour in the Xinjiang region required a thorough and independent assessment. Guterres said that Bachelet's visit is currently being negotiated between the Office of the High Commissioner and the Chinese authorities. China's sensitivity to criticism regarding its treatment of the Uyghur minority was on full display over the weekend. It announced targeted sanctions against 2 Americans and a Canadian lawmaker who had all denounced Beijing's treatment of the minority group. The Chinese government has still denied any mistreatment. However, the world's leading democracies have accused CCP officials of crushing any opposition in Xinjiang, Tibet, Inner Mongolia and Hong Kong. Activists remain skeptical about a meaningful visit with unfettered access in China. And we are now joined by journalist Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick from Hong Kong, who is a special correspondent for the LA Times and Washington Post. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, the visit is being negotiated at the moment. What can we expect on that front? We know that China has denied reports of alleged abuse of Uyghur Muslims.
Yes, of course, China's been denying these reports for years, and it's also been aggressively blocking access to foreign journalists to the region for years. And this past week, the controversy over forced labor on cotton plantations in Xinjiang has shown the degree to which they will not tolerate any criticism of what they're doing there. So in terms of what we can expect from this report, I think China will only agree to an investigation if they can get terms as advantageous as they did for the WHO investigation to Wuhan, where they can essentially control the narrative by vetoing who takes part and where they go. So in terms of a unfettered access to a region, I don't think we can hold very high hopes of that.
All right, Ryan. On Saturday, when it announced targeted sanctions against 2 American religious rights officials and Canadian lawmakers who had denounced Beijing's treatment of them and other minorities. Now, this highlights China's sensitivity to criticism. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, it certainly highlights China's sensitivity. Extending these sanctions to politicians as well as non-governmental organizations and even law firms. So it goes to show the pettiness with which they will pursue the critics of their Xinjiang policy, which again is why hopes of establishing unfettered access to their camps there is so unlikely. Would have been spending years trying to make sure that journalists, investigators, human rights advocates, whomever, cannot access the inside of those camps and figure out what's happening and verify the government narrative.
All right, absolutely. That was in fact my next question to you. There is, of course, skepticism about the prospects of a meaningful visit with unfettered access. Now, if that does not happen, how do you think these negotiations will pan out?
Well, of course, it's been over 3 years now since the United Nations first said it received credible reports that at least a million Uyghur Muslims were being held in mass detention camps in China. So this has been a long time coming. And as with the WHO investigation, China may use its concerns about being targeted or just being a foregone conclusion to even further delay that to ensure they can effectively stage manage a visit to Xinjiang. So I think either the visit won't happen, or China will delay to the extent that it can effectively guarantee what occurs in the report that is published thereafter.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us with all those inputs.